Well, hello everyone. Hey, today NFL fantasy matchup. We are recording for this week only because all of us actually have a job and we actually are on travel this week. So, Jed, welcome. Jimmy, welcome over in Arizona. And as we're sitting here, we're watching the Monday Night Football game against the New England Patriots at Buffalo Bills, where Damian Harris seems to be doing pretty well. So, guys, good evening.
Good to see you. It's a crazy game out there. If anyone's watching, the wind is so affecting the game. So you're seeing, and if you're watching it, it's like a playoff game. They are really hitting each other and beating each other up. It's a really high intensity game. So it's a fun game to watch.
Well, right now, as I'm sitting here, Mac Jones has one completion, 12 yards, but pretty much it's all running.
Well, it was so bad that after the Patriots' first touchdown, they didn't even go for the extra point. They went for two because they were afraid that the wind. So the first punt, on the very first punt, the New England punter, when he dropped the ball to punt it, he let go to punt it, just that short distance, the ball moved. So then he only punted it like 15 yards.
I can tell that the coach for Buffalo is not too happy. He's been upset the entire game.
Yeah, he's been yelling at the refs. I'm not actually sure what he's upset about, but it's a defensive struggle right now. But it's a good game. It's high intensity.
Hey, look, it's week 13. We're going to talk about the week 13 games, preview week 14. But look, in one of our leagues, our keeper league, which I am very, very proud of my team, it looks like I am knocked out of the playoffs. Guys, I'm telling you, if I was dumb enough to not maxed out on all my moves, I could have gotten a quarterback. All right. And Aaron Rodgers is on bye. I also have in IDP players, I also have Campbell, who is on bye for Green Bay. But guys, look at this. I have Javonte Williams, Gronkowski, Madison, Gibson, McLaren, Montgomery, Adams. Now I won't be able to make it to the playoffs.
So I'm actually kind of happy. I mean, I did not purposely lose, right? In terms of the integrity of this game, I'm going to play my best and I'm going to see how it goes. But I did not want Tommy's team to come in because he is one of those teams that's shaping up at just the right time with the right players. And so they would be the type of team that I would not want to play in the playoffs.
Man. Guys, because I'm looking at like yesterday, the Bears were terrible. But for some reason, David Montgomery, 21 rushes, 90 yards, a touchdown, non-targets, 25 points. David Montgomery hasn't done anything in the last couple of weeks.
Oh, he looked really good. Yeah, I don't know. I like Montgomery. I hope they, continue to try to build around him. He looked so good yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, the last game, Cincinnati, 9 points. Cleveland, 6 points. Wow, they've been doing really, really well the last couple of weeks.
I mean, Tom, you at least have to be happy. Javonte Williams is doing really good. He did really good yesterday against the Chiefs.
Yeah, I was thinking how you guys totally hit that one. That was a perfect pickup. What was the one I was gonna say? I made a last second pickup and it ended up being. Let me find out who that was. It ended up being a really good move.
Hey, speaking of Javonte Williams, don't you think this is the end of Melvin Gordon as we see it? 23 rushes, 102 yards, 9 catches. 6 receptions, 76 yards, and a touchdown. There was nothing going on with the Denver offense. Javonte Williams did it all for them. Yeah, it was so good. Yeah. Hey, for you guys, which game stood out for in terms of a couple of news and notes that we'll look at? Logan Thomas. Jed, love to see what you're thinking.
Oh yeah, I feel bad for Logan Thomas. This ACL. I mean, it's like the guy can't catch a break. I mean, but the big one in that game was your guy Antonio Gibson. I mean, he looked really strong. I think he had almost 100 yards maybe in rushing and then some passing. I don't know if he got a touchdown or not, but he had a solid game. So that was nice to see a bounce back for him. Oh, that's who it was. At the last second, I picked up Sony Michel for the Rams on Sunday morning, hearing that Anderson might be out. And boy, 121 yards and a touchdown. That was a great move. So
yeah. Well, Chad, one of the things I was so impressed by, did you get a chance to see the highlights of the Rams game or watch them on Red Zone? They were so good. Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Sony Michel, Higbee. Wow. It just was. Look, Odell Beckham got a touchdown. Van Jefferson got a touchdown. Everyone got a touchdown.
Yeah, Beckham was the other one. I played him too. That was a nice pickup. But again, yeah, people were going nuts. It's the Jags. The Rams are still suspect. They have not been playing well. This was important for them to bounce back and to score a lot of points. But still, I think the Rams, you got to be a little bit concerned. They have not shown the consistency that they're going to need going into the playoffs. So we just got to see what happens next week.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jim.
Oh, Jed, let me just say, sorry, I had to respond to something. But yesterday, my teams did so good because all my players came in at the right time. Kyler Murray did really well. I had Justin Jefferson, Alexander
Justin Jefferson was huge.
Pollard, Javonte Williams. I was so happy yesterday. And Matthew Stafford was on one of my quarterbacks. And so the unfortunate thing is Logan Thomas, who was my starting tight end. I mean, he doesn't have a serious injury in terms of ACL, but he might be knocked out for a few weeks, which will take me into the playoffs without a tight end. So I got to look for somebody right now.
Yeah. Kyler Murray, that was another, to me, big story. I've got Kyler Murray in our keeper league and, 2 touchdowns passing, 2 touchdowns rushing. I mean, it was just nice to see him look the same. And then I did the stupid move and sat Hopkins thinking that he was going to be on a pitch count. And of course, his very first catch was for a touchdown. So that was a mistake.
Yeah.
Hey, a couple of news and notes I want to go through. We talked about Logan Thomas possibly being done with the torn ACL. Adam Thielen, high ankle injury, had to leave early from the game. Look, with the playoffs starting either this week or next week, man, he might be out for the week. And so a lot of times for those who are owning Justin Jefferson, you're looking very, very good at this point.
I think the other person, and we'll talk a little bit about him in the waiver wire pickups, KJ Osborne came in relief, did 4 of 7 for 47 yards in the touchdown. I think he's a good pickup, especially for those people who have Thielen.
Yeah. When New Orleans, hey, look, I mean, you're really desperate with everyone coming off bye, but Taysom Hill did get a finger injury, which will not require surgery, but at the same time, it might cost him a couple of games.
You think so? The injury for Taysom Hill?
It's the same injury which cost Russell Wilson several games. But the problem with Russell Wilson was in his middle finger. This one is in his pinky.
Yeah, I mean, but if you notice, they kept rushing him, right? So maybe what you're hoping to do is that he'll still play, but primarily they're going to rush him and then have him throw some. But he actually did score 24 fantasy points in the last game.
And you know what? New Orleans is playing the Jets next week, so that's a very winnable game. So you got to remember that.
Yeah, and even Schefter, right? Schefter from ESPN is reporting that Hill is going to try to play through with his finger injury. So we'll see how it goes.
The other quarterback, Russell Wilson, I thought finally started to look a little bit more like himself. And next week, Seattle is playing Houston. So another good game that they could win and he could get right. So if you've been sitting on Russell Wilson, I know I have him in one league. And he's you should definitely consider him for a starter next week.
Yeah. Hey, with Russell Wilson, he threw 30 passes, 231 yards, 2 touchdowns. And so Tyler Lockett had 68 yards, Metcalf at 60 yards. And hey, look at the running back as well, too. Travis Homer, 3 carries, 80 yards. Rashad Penny, 10 carries, 35 yards. But Old Faithful Adrian Peterson, 11 carries, 16 yards. But again, touchdown dependent with the touchdown. Right. Yeah. So, and then also Kenyon Drake suffers a broken ankle on Sunday, out for the season. Running back Elijah Mitchell evaluated for a head injury in Sunday's game. No update at this point right now.
Yeah, with Kenyon Drake, Josh Jacobs obviously is the main guy, but The guy behind him is Rashard. What's his last name? Like Rashard Washington or something like that. He got hurt too. So just look for Jacobs to get a lot of carries if you've got Jacobs next week.
Yeah. Hey, as we're look, I mean, it's our first and last time recording this week with all of us being on travel. We're watching the New England Patriots game. We just finished yesterday's game as well too. And so a lot of times we're going to try to preview some of week 14. We're going to look at waiver wires, all of these different things. But hey, look, a lot of those injuries, all the news, all of that hasn't come out yet. But I'd love to pick her brain on some of the games. Jed, I'll start with you. With the Philadelphia Eagles against the New York Jets, all right? Gardner Minshew started in place of Jalen Hurts.
Jalen Hurts, yep.
Yeah.
Miles Sanders came alive, 24 carries, 120 yards. Goddard, which I'm not surprising. Usually with quarterbacks, they love to throw to the tight end, especially if you're a backup. 105 yards, 2 touchdowns. Thoughts on Sanders?
Yeah, I had a friend who asked me Sunday morning, should he drop Sanders and play someone else? And I was like, no. Like, I mean, this guy, again, I said at least keep him on your bench. Don't drop him if you don't want to start him. But yeah, he really bounced back. But again, just like I was saying before with the Jags versus the Rams, I mean, this was still the Jets. So let's not get too carried away. Yeah. But it was nice to see Sanders put together a nice game.
The only thing is you don't know, right? So towards the end of the game, he suffered an ankle injury, got put into the blue tents, and he sat out the rest of the fourth quarter. So we don't know how serious that injury is. It'll be interesting if it is somewhat serious because right now, the only healthy quarterback or the only healthy running back is kind of Gainwell because Bart Scott is out and Jordan Howard is out as well too. So Gainwell might be somebody you might want to look at depending on how serious Miles Sanders is.
Jim, for New York Jets, I actually want to ask you, Zach Wilson was your starting quarterback. You traded Elijah Moore. You wanted Elijah Moore, and you traded Javonte Williams for Elijah Moore. 6 catches, 77 yards, 1 touchdown. What are your thoughts on that one?
I wanted to be sure to remind you.
Well, you know what I was thinking about? I was glad that Elijah Moore had a good game. But then I was like, you know what? I held on to Javonte Williams all season. And I decided to trade him the week before, Gordon gets injured. And now, you know what? You win some, you lose some. I mean, I still have 3 good running backs in my dynasty league. Elijah Moore, I'm hoping will be good. But I do regret trading Javonte Williams.
Yeah, wouldn't you guys say Javonte Williams in one game yesterday has elevated where he is seriously being considered as one of my keepers for next year?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think he'll be the number 1 running back. And I think they're going to try to keep running this ball. Now, if you watched the game yesterday, they actually had a pretty good strategy. They took the ball early on. They made sure Mahomes did not get on the field. The problem with the Broncos, they can't score. They can't even score a field goal, right? So if you're going to keep the ball all this time, you want to at least score 3 points, but they couldn't even do that until towards the end of the game, fourth quarter, they finally scored a touchdown.
And I think for me, that's why you guys have been on the Broncos all season. And I think this is why I haven't been paying as much attention is, like you said, the points just aren't there on offense. And so, yeah, Javonte Williams had 23 carries, 102 yards, but no touchdowns, And so I feel like that's going to cap, kind of the max ceiling that he can have. But he's definitely a keeper, definitely someone to, he'll be the number 1 back there. So that's good.
Oh, I was watching a Sunday night football game. It was driving me nuts. Every single time they got into the red zone, what happened? Interception. Drove me nuts as well, too. Hey, but at the same time, speak on the other side, Jed, Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes, it's not like he threw so well. 184 yards. Look, Clyde Edwards-Helaire did nothing, 54 yards. Darrell Williams was your leading receiver at 60 yards.
Yeah, I still think we're going to hear something is wrong with Mahomes. Like, what is wrong with Mahomes? Like, is there some injury or something we don't know about? Because he does not look the same. But a lot of it does seem to be decision-making. Like, he's making the wrong decision. Kansas City has not been the same as we've talked about all season.
I mean, if you were watching the game, and I was watching the game yesterday, he's sitting out there for long periods of time, right? And so when he's come in, like I remember towards the end of the first half, he came in. Denver had the ball for most of the second quarter. He came in for a series, and that was like the worst series that he possibly could have, where it was 4 and out, right? And so part of it is I wonder if he's sitting the entire time, he's not engaged, he's coming in, he's trying to make something happen, and it's just not working.
But it seems like he's been in a funk since the Super Bowl. Look, I mean, they just rattled him in the Super Bowl. He just did not do well. And ever since then, it's carried on to the season. And he hasn't been the same Patrick Mahomes that we saw during the regular season last year.
Tom, I will say Tyreek Hill, he had 4 points. If all he did was score double figures, you would now be in the playoffs. But
I would be in the playoffs if I did not use up all 50 of my moves. And even if I started, Gardner Minshew, I would have been in the playoffs. Oh my gosh, I'm so frustrated. This was one of my best teams, and oh my gosh, I'm so frustrated by it. Because Tommy Lee used up all 50 moves. I couldn't put in backup quarterback in there. Hey, but with that said, Indianapolis, again, you lose some, you win some. At least I will say that I've gotten to a point where I have good keepers for next year. Hey, let's talk a little bit about Indianapolis. Look, Jonathan Taylor, is he not going to be your number one running back next year? 32 carries, 143 yards, 2 touchdowns. He has been so good.
Yeah, I was just talking to a friend who was saying in their league, Jonathan Taylor was number one, that he was the number one draft pick, and the team was like, you guys are going to see by the end of the season. And sure enough, he's really turned it on. I agree with you. You got a strong argument that he's, because Derrick Henry coming back from injury and Dalvin Cook coming back from injury, obviously those are potentials for the top 3, but I think you could pick Jonathan Taylor and no one would say anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hey, LA Chargers, they win against LA Chargers 41, Bengals 22. Jim, let's talk a little bit about the Bengals. Burrow did well, 300 yards. Mixon did, 54 yards. But surprisingly, it was not Chase, who has struggled now for the last couple of games, but rather T. Higgins once again with 9 catches, 138 yards. Last week, he had 114 yards. Compare that with Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase in the last couple of games has had 52 yards, 39 yards, 32 yards, 49 yards, 32 yards. This was all after the 201-yard game that he had. Thoughts as we head into the playoffs? Who's the wide receiver to own? Is it Jamar Chase or is it T. Higgins?
I mean, you still have to play Jamar Chase, but obviously what you're seeing is T. Higgins' stock is on the rise, right? And so if I'm going to the playoffs and I have to choose one, I'm gonna roll the dice and go with T. Higgins and play with the hot hand. But I will say, at least if you're looking at it from a dynasty perspective, Jamar Chase is going to be really good next year. And if you have him, you better make sure you're keeping him because I think he's going to be really good.
Yeah, and I think what's happened there is teams are just doubling on Chase. They're basically taking out Jamar Chase, and that's leaving T. Higgins. So I think you got to be careful and just look at the schedule because the Chargers are playing the Giants next week. Again, the Giants can be beat. I wouldn't. Sorry, not the Chargers. The Bengals. The Bengals are playing the San Francisco 49ers next week. So, again, that they just had a high-scoring game with Seattle. A lot of injuries in their secondary. So I would definitely still play both, and I still might stick out with Jamar Chase, in my opinion, between those two.
I mean, what the Bengals have also realized is they need Joe Mixon to have big games as a runner because it takes the pressure off Burrows, it takes the pressure off the receivers, and they need him in there, right? For a while there, they kept tossing to their tight end, they kept tossing to Chase, but I think what they started realizing is having a good balance with Mixon out there is actually really helpful.
The other thing in that game we should talk about is Mike Williams.
He came back.
Yeah, Mike Williams had a pretty nice game, but also Keenan Allen, I think he got a little bit nicked up towards the end of that game. And so if Allen is out, expect Mike Williams to, really have a lot more focal point on him next week. So you want to pay attention to that.
Actually, Chad, Keenan Allen may be out because it's being reported he is placed on COVID-19 list. It has not been said whether he has tested positive or close contact, but he is out and placed on leave because of COVID-19.
So there you go. And they're playing the Giants. So again, Mike Williams can dominate in that secondary. So if you've got Williams, I think you want to get him in.
That means like somebody like a Guyton, who is the third receiver, and a Cook, right, the tight end.
Yeah,
they're
the tight end.
getting more plays if Keenan Allen is out.
Yeah.
Hey, Jim, Buccaneers 30 against the Atlanta Falcons 17, right? And so Tom Brady did pretty well, 368 yards, 4 touchdowns. Godwin did very good at 143 yards. But man, Gronkowski, ever since he's been back, another 2 touchdowns this past week.
Well, I mean, the two players, right, Gronkowski and also Leonard Fournette. It was funny if you were watching the game. One of the things that the announcers were saying, they said, Evans is good, and yes, Godwin is good. But at the end of the day, if you've noticed, Brady always goes back to the people that he brought in, which is Gronk and then also Fournette. So they're good players. Yeah. Well, okay, so that's the other thing I was going to ask. Did you guys hear? I don't know.
He might get cut.
Yeah, right. I was like,
he might get cut.
I was like, whoa, he might get cut.
Yeah, because he got suspended, and then Bruce Arians was like, we had said he had a no strike policy, right? And so there was debate about but I think it's going to come down to if Brady wants him. I don't think they'll cut him. If you watched him when he was healthy and he makes a huge difference on that offense, and so I don't think they will cut him. Which I think if you have a playoff team, I think he's worth holding. If you can keep him, he'll basically be in your championship game. You'll be able to roll him out there. But I would just say the other thing with Godwin, 15 catches. If you were in PPR, Godwin probably won your week for you.
Yeah. Well, it's probably one of those things like, look, Bruce Arians was embarrassed because during training camp, he says 100% of our team is vaccinated. Well, what he didn't know is that one of your team members or a couple of your team members were pretending that they had the fake vaccination card. And so I'm sure he was pretty pissed about that. Hey, Jed, let me ask you, on the Atlanta Falcons side, we're not paying attention to anyone, even though I would probably say Mike Davis did come up with 1 touchdown. Cordero Patterson, he had 78 yards. But Russell Gage, 130 yards with Ridley gone and Pitts struggling. Are you looking to pick up Gage and starting him at all during your championship run?
Yeah, it's not that Pitts is struggling. It's that the defenses are keyed in on him. They're doubling down on Pitts, and so it's giving Gage the room to run. So yeah, I missed that, and definitely I think Russell Gage is a guy you can pick up. Again, looking at the schedule, looking to see, and I'm just scanning real quick to see.
They're playing Carolina. They're playing Carolina next week, right? And then San Francisco is white. So Carolina is a good play for Russell Gage.
Exactly. So I think Russell Gage is a good pickup.
Yeah. Well, I remember you asked us last week, would you pick up a Russell Gage? Or maybe Tommy did. And I was like, I don't know. But in the last 2 weeks, he scored double figures. This week, he broke 20s in terms of fantasy point. And next week, playing Carolina, that actually might be a pretty decent play, actually, for a Russell Gage.
See, I think the hardest question with the Falcons is Kyle Pitts. Because this is one of those situations where football talent, like the reality of football versus fantasy football, is different. Because in real football, Pitts is definitely a top 5 tight end. Defenses have to play for him. He's a mismatch. They have to account for him. They double him. But in fantasy football, he has just not been producing because they haven't figured out how to beat the double coverage for him. They don't have any other playmakers other than Cordero Patterson, and they can't pull coverage off of Pitts. So I've been debating if he's even worth keeping for a keeper league.
Yeah. Are we assuming Calvin Ridley is out for the rest of the year? I mean, I guess you kind of have to, right?
Yeah, I guess I don't know. People have probably been holding on to him, right? I would suspect.
And the problem is, even if he does come on, right, he hasn't played in weeks. So at the same time, you're going to be susceptible that he's going to have a soft tissue injury and he doesn't have the conditioning to be able to play in game action.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Hey, look, we're sitting here and New England is 11-7 against the Buffalo Bills, right? Mac Jones has only threw 1 completion to Jonnu Smith for 12 yards. Other than that, they've all rushed. Mac Jones, Nelson Aguilar, Brandon Bolden, Damian Harris, Ramondre Stevenson, Jonnu Smith have all run. On the Buffalo Bills side, we were all talking about Matt Breida. One rush for 3 yards only. Zach
Well,
Moss.
he had a fumble too.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
did he have a fumble? Yeah.
Yeah.
Zach
And then
Moss
Zach
is doing
Moss
pretty
is-
well. Isn't Zach
And
Moss
no,
pretty
4
good?
carries and 12 yards.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Jen, I want to talk to you, or Jim, I want to look at you in terms of Miami Dolphins against the New York Giants. Miami Dolphins, how good has Jalen Waddle been? Another 5 catches for 90 yards. Hey, in the last couple, between all the 3 stud first-round running backs, Waddle's been doing really well.
Yeah, he has actually. Tua's actually been doing pretty good from fantasy-wise as well too. And then we saw Devontae Parker come back off the IR. And so some people think that the Dolphins may make the playoffs given how good they've been playing the last few weeks.
Yeah. Jed, for you, Minnesota against. Did you watch that game from the
Oh
the
yeah, last
Lions?
second touchdown to get their first win of the season. That was huge for Detroit.
From who? Jared Goff of all people.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you this. Okay,
No, go ahead.
go ahead. Well, you know who caught that touchdown? Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's been hyped up since the since the play preseason, and I have not heard of him. And I forgot that he was on Detroit, and he caught that touchdown, and he scored double figures yesterday in fantasy. I was like, hey, he might actually be somewhat fantasy relevant these days.
I mean, I was gonna say you knew with Detroit they were gonna win a game. It's just very, very rare. Actually, has it even? I don't know if we've had a season where a team went the whole season without a win. So you knew that there was gonna be a game. It was just a question of which one, and they just caught the Vikings, right at the last second. But I think this game really, Justin Jefferson took over, tried to win for them, 11 catches for 182 yards. And now with Thielen, potentially injured, Justin Jefferson is definitely the guy that you want to get in there. They're going to be a focal point next week.
Okay, can I say something? This is something I heard aside. Did you know that the Packers could have drafted Justin Jefferson? And do you know who they got instead of Justin Jefferson?
Jordan Love.
Jordan Love. They drafted Jordan Love instead of Justin Jefferson. Can you imagine Jefferson on the team for the Packers with Aaron Rodgers?
Oh, there's so many what ifs like that. Like you look at the New England game right now, the guy that they missed for both Jacoby Myers, you look at Jacoby Myers, and they could have had DK Metcalf.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, man, if New England had DK Metcalf, they'd be unstoppable.
Yeah. Hey, Jamaal Williams, look, 17 carries, 71 yards. Is he, Jed, are you looking to put him on waiver wires if he's still sitting there this week?
No, I don't think so. Well, Detroit's playing Denver next week, so yeah, I don't know that that's a good pickup. Again, to me, Detroit, they got their win. The players are excited. They finally got their win. You'll probably see them relax a little bit. I expect Denver probably to blow Detroit out.
Well, the only thing is, I mean, I'm looking at the waiver wires right now. There's not that many backup running backs out there, right? And so Jamaal Williams is going to most likely start for DeAndre Swift, who's going to be out for a little bit longer. And so I think even for 8, 9, 10 fantasy points, you're hoping he at least scores a touchdown. I still think he's a better play than some of the other waiver guys out there.
Yeah. Hey, Jim, speaking of one waiver guys, Baltimore Ravens loses to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Wonderful game last night or yesterday afternoon. The one that I want to look at is Devonta Freeman. He only had 14. He had 14 carries, 52 yards, but 1 touchdown. Not bad if you're looking for a backup.
I mean, really, there's nobody else, right? You got Le'Veon Bell out there. You've got Latavius Murray. I was surprised that they went for the 2-point play. Yeah, Mark Andrews could have caught that ball. But when you have Justin Tucker, the number 1 kicker on your team, for me, I'd much rather tie it, go into overtime, and have them win the game, which – I don't understand why they decided to go for the 2-point play.
Well, yeah, he said that basically they were down to they had no more cornerbacks. They had lost 2 of their quarterbacks to injury. So he was basically worried that they wouldn't be able to defend if they went into overtime. So that's why they went for the win. So that it was an interesting game though. But, I think I just don't know if Freeman will even be available in your leagues. Like I think most people have already picked him.
Yeah, I think Freeman's a lot of people picked up Freeman already.
Yeah.
And also on the Pittsburgh side, look, Roethlisberger announced during the week, it looks like it'll probably be his last season over the Pittsburgh Steelers. Najee Harris did come back, not Najee Harris-like, but he did have 71 yards, no touchdowns, which was very, very disappointing. and Deontay Johnson, 8 catches, 105 yards.
Yeah, I actually think I don't know what you guys think about this. I feel like now that it's the whole announcement for Ben Roethlisberger, I kind of feel like the team relaxed a little bit because maybe they weren't sure, and now they're kind of focused on playing well for Ben. Like, so I feel like there's a potential that you'll see a little bit more out of the passing game, and maybe a little bit more juice for Pittsburgh these last few weeks.
Yeah, Jim, anyone on the waiver wire you're looking at here for this week?
I think we talked about Russell Gage. He's actually still available in quite a few of these leagues. I think he's a good pickup. Like we said, they're playing Carolina next week. So if you're really looking for a backup wide receiver, he'd be something as well too. KJ Osborne, we talked about him with Thielen out. He's a third wide receiver who will most likely be the other starter opposite Justin Jefferson. And so he's actually somebody that everybody should really pay attention to. As well too. And then I'm trying to think where else. And then Jalen Guyton. Jalen Guyton's the wide receiver for the Chargers. He actually scored. Did you guys know he scored almost 20-something fantasy points this week for the Chargers? He had four receptions for 90 yards and a touchdown. So, look, if Keenan Allen is out, I think he's actually a good play or at least a good pickup from a wide receiver perspective. So, at least those 3 receivers are somebody that I would really target.
Do you guys know if James Robinson made it out of the game healthy or not? Because I was looking at Carlos Hyde, his backup, in case Robinson didn't. He was kind of like a game time decision. But that's someone I was looking at a little bit.
So I was looking at monitoring both of them, right? So because he was a game time decision, he played, but I think he only scored single digit in terms of fantasy. And actually, Carlos Hyde had out rushed him and had more yards. So you can tell whether he's playing or not, he's hurting, right? And so I can see them playing Carlos Hyde a little bit more in the coming weeks. Is my thoughts.
Yeah, so that's another potential pickup. Hyde is probably available in your leagues if you're desperate for a running back.
Yeah. And Tom, you're right. I'm just looking at Mike Davis right now. He had 4 targets, 37 yards. He rushed 4 times for 32 yards and a touchdown. And he actually had close over 10 fantasy points this past week. So you never know. They might need another Mike Davis to do some more stuff.
Yeah. Hey, just so you know, the teams on bye this week are the Colts. So you're missing Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman, Carson Wentz. Eagles, Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith, Miles Sanders. Patriots is on bye. Dolphins is on bye. Jalen Waddles, Myles Gaskin, Mike Gesicki. So those are your 4 teams that are on bye. The Colts, Eagles, Patriots, Dolphins.
Do you guys think they're going to keep Tua next year? I mean, so this is one of the things I was thinking about. If you're in a dynasty league, we're going into the offseason, do you even try to go after Deshaun Watson or do you just leave him off the bench?
Well, my stance on quarterbacks. I'm, unless you're really set at a top 5 quarterback, that's not somebody that I'm keeping. So I wouldn't go after him. But I do think that's one of the really interesting off-season questions is what happens with Deshaun Watson. So again, don't forget, top 5 quarterback, like instantly. He can come in off of having missed a whole year, instantly a top 5 quarterback. So it could be worth it.
And look, we don't even know who are some of the rookie quarterbacks. At least it does not, from everything I'm reading and hearing, in terms of all the articles I'm reading, it does not compare to this year's or last year's quarterback. It will be a very, very empty quarterback class.
Well, yeah, if you look at the college landscape right now, the playoffs have been set. The Heisman Trophy candidate is really up in the air. Like at the Alabama quarterback is maybe the guy who's the front runner, but he really didn't emerge till this last couple of weeks. And so there hasn't been a clear-cut quarterback that you could see who can just step into the NFL.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, we never talk about college football, right? Because I never really pay attention to college football. But how good of a job is that Jim Harbaugh doing?
Oh, I was really disappointed. So the way it went is Alabama's number 1, Michigan's number 2, Georgia's number 3, and Cincinnati's number 4. I really thought Michigan should have been number 1, and then they would have gotten to play Cincinnati, which would have been the perfect setup. But I think basically they kind of didn't want the SEC. They didn't want to repeat the Georgia versus Alabama game, and so they split it up. So I really don't think that was fair to Michigan. But Michigan's got a tough road to have to beat Georgia and Alabama in consecutive weekends, that is not easy. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Hey, I would have loved to see a second game between Georgia and Alabama.
That's why I was saying, I don't know why people were like, saying that it wouldn't be. I thought that would be a great semifinal game to have them match up and then have the winner of that play Michigan. I thought that would have been a really nice playoff. But
hey, look, there is something I love, Jed, when a team plays a team a second time. Now you kind of know how the other team plays. Now you're figuring out what else they could do.
Yeah, exactly. Alabama looked really good though that game. It was they haven't been good. They've had a couple really tough close games. They had a 4 overtime game last weekend before this win against Georgia. So everyone was kind of questioning Alabama, but man, their talent, I mean, that basically is like an NFL team. When you look at Alabama, probably half their team is like half of their starters are NFL starters. And so their talent just really wins out.
By the way, in real time, did you guys hear that Damian Harris exited late in the second quarter because of a pulled hamstring? So Ramondre Stevenson is going to start the third quarter.
Oh, I've got Stevenson playing. All right, let's get Stevenson a touchdown.
Stevenson and Bolden.
Yeah, Bolden has been a surprise how much they've given him the past couple of weeks. And so that's taken away from Ramondre Stevenson. I feel like, and being the Patriots, I wouldn't be surprised. Watch the Patriots going into the playoffs. They will shrink the starters. Watch Stevenson get a lot more play in the playoffs, and they drop Bolden. That's kind of a New England move to really stick to a core group once they get into the playoffs.
Yeah.
Well, hey, look, it's evening time, and we probably won't be able to talk until next week as well, too. Any NBA thoughts or cryptocurrency thoughts from you guys?
DeMar DeRozan got put on COVID, right? I think.
Yep.
Did he? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so okay. I mean, going to crypto, right? We were all texting each other Saturday night, 10:30 at night. I'm sitting there in my bed looking at it, and I was like, "What is going on?" It literally went all the way down to $43,000. Like I think it went down close to about $10,000.
I think it was almost 20%. They lost.
It was crazy. That's why I texted you guys because I was like, "What is going on there?" Yeah. So I started transferring money to buy Bitcoin at $43,000, and so about a little bit, not too much, but now it's back up to like what is that now, right? $50,000, right?
Yeah.
So in a matter of a few days, it went up like $7,000, but it was crazy how much it was going down the other night.
So here's my thing. So I always buy my team, gifts and stuff for Christmas, end of the year. Yeah. So this year I was telling my wife, I've got a team of 11. I'm going to buy them all Bitcoin. Like that's going to be Christmas, my Christmas gift. So, I was going to see, you guys think I should buy them Bitcoin or Ethereum? I was thinking Ethereum is like the better long-term play, but it's kind of cooler to say, "Oh, I got Bitcoin for Christmas," because people don't know what Ethereum is.
Well, more so, I'm trying to figure out, like, where do you buy it? How do you gift it to them? Do you buy it?
Oh, it's really easy. If you're on Coinbase, you can send Bitcoin to a friend, and that's all you do. You just send them a link, and all they have to do is then register, and then they get it.
That's what they want to do. That's what Coinbase would love for you to do, that so that they open up a Coinbase account.
Well, and what I'm hoping is if I do that, there could be a referral bonus for me, so I might get something back.
Yeah. Hey, Jim, how low did Bitcoin drop this week or last weekend?
43,000.
43.
Yeah. Oh wow.
43,000.
Okay. Yeah, and Ethereum dropped below 4,000.
That's why I texted you guys. Yeah. Because I was wondering why it was going so low, and I was sitting there monitoring it. And so I actually, good or bad, I actually sold a bunch of Ethereum because I bought it really low to buy Bitcoin because I knew it was going to go up.
Yeah, it looks like it's going up again. It's gone up a lot these days.
Yeah. No, it's I still personally am very long on both Bitcoin and Ethereum. I feel like remember Bitcoin every single year has at least doubled since its inception. Every single year at least doubled, and a lot of years more than that. So if you just keep doing the math, you're still in a good spot.
Yeah.
Hey, Jed, I was thinking, why don't you just buy? Oh, Jed, why don't you buy your work people Shiba? So you can give them $100 worth of Shiba, but it'll be like 100 million Shiba coins or something.
Well, that's the thing. Well, see, exactly. So I was debating, like, yeah, do you want to give them the more riskier, bigger payout? But again, I mean, to me, a part of the factor, I mean, these are all young millennials, right? And so I think one of the cool factors is to say, oh, my boss gave me, if they say Shiba, people will be like, what's that? But if they say, oh, my boss gave me Bitcoin, like, that's kind of cool. So I don't know.
That's actually not bad. Sending it through Coinbase, that's actually not bad. Hey, do you know why it went down so low?
You know, I think it was a lot of people just think that it was a correction in the market. So the day before, if you've noticed, all the stocks went down. So all of the stocks, because of, I think it was fear of inflation, just bad day on the stock market. There's a bunch of different reasons why. And then I think who knows? It was late Saturday night at 10:30 at night. You know, no one was paying attention. I don't even know why I was paying attention to it, but I was paying attention to it. I was watching it. And then when it went down, I started just paying really close attention, especially when it hit the $10,000 loss mark.
So I was reading, one of the things, if you really are into Bitcoin and Ethereum, is you watch the futures markets. And so basically what they have is a lot of these big institutional buyers, they put in place buy orders or sell orders at a certain mark, and they can actually track the volume of that. So what they said was it was a trigger where it hit a certain price point, and then all of a sudden all these large orders started selling, and then that triggered automatic sell points. So it wasn't a bunch of people at once selling, it was all these automatic orders, because they're basically taking in their profits. And so it just kind of cascaded and went from there until all those orders were fulfilled, and then it finally stopped.
Oh, maybe that's right. Yeah, because it went down low. It really went down low. Yeah.
Wow, pretty good. NBA, you guys watching NBA games today? The Bulls are really up high against the Denver Nuggets. Yeah, they are up 83 to 100. They are up 100 to 83 in the fourth quarter.
Nice. I won my basketball league again, so just eked it out like a 6-4 win. So kept that top spot. We'll see what happens.